Destiny lies about AJW.
Criticized the Trump.
That's not a shift. That was his initial claim in his initial opening was fraudulent ballots. You think it's what is the reason you don't use the videos of interrogation of captured Hamas terrorists in your debates? Because it's like such an unbelievably loaded like thing that nobody on the other side is ever believing that. Probably nobody in the middle will believe it. It's just not even worth engaging with it. To apologize to actual justice warrior for what?
It has been 6 years since the Prophet put on their ihram.
Made a whole video about how you were bad faith to him. Wait, where at?
On the way at Dhul Hulayfa. They're saying the talbiyah, the labbaik Allahumma labbaik. They're making dhikr of Allah and dua, and they're on their way in their ihram. And it's such a beautiful sight. It's such a joyous occasion for all of them to perform Umrah with the Prophet ﷺ. But when they arrive close to Mecca, they are stopped. They are met by a cavalry led by Khalid bin Walid, who's still not Muslim.
After the debate, you called him almost a grifter and he got annoyed. Yeah, because he kept carrying so much water for the insane dude next to me. I feel like he does this at like every debate we go to, where he'll ask like funny questions and he engages in this hardcore analysis of like criticism to the left, but he has nothing to say of the right ever. He has no here's a question. Actual Justice Warrior's channel is engaging in like he engages in like crime analysis and stuff like that. That was his like educational background. Has he said like a single thing about like anything related to January 6th? I don't think I saw. I feel like I looked for this at one point because I was curious. It's like nothing, or anything about like Trump's crimes or Trump's indictments, or he's got this video 3 years ago when it happened, but. Yeah, I don't know. When people are like one side selectively critical, it irritates the fuck out of me. And he's smarter than this too. Like I can tell when I talk to him and when we've like debated, like he's like a decently smart guy. And him carrying so much water, like I think there were two separate times in that debate on stage.
Welcome,
I think there were two separate times where he was like, "Oh, well, like I don't think the guy to the right of you is saying that. I think he's saying this." Like, no, I think he's saying that. Let's ask him. And he's like, "I am saying that." And it's like, Jesus. We can watch this video though, but let me finish this. Hold on. Destiny lies about AJW.
Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today I was going to give you a recap of my Minds panel, which will be linked in full in the description. But unfortunately, after my panel, Steven, Destiny, who is on the panel with me, decided to call me close to a grifter or some other nonsense like that, and accuse me of running defense for all these crazy right-wing positions that I did not actually run defense for. So I want to address that nonsense, some other nonsense, because I get sent clips from him doing.
Oh, I feel like this whole thing is going to come down to him saying like, well, technically I didn't sign off on that thing. I just said that if he did say that thing, I wouldn't agree with it, but I don't think he said that thing. And it's going to come off to, this is the whole video.
Things to me that he criticizes other people for doing to him. And I think this is a very teachable moment because I don't believe that there's malice or ill intent in any of this. But the fact is, you sometimes get blinded by your own perspective. And I want to point this out. On top of that, this kind of thing has caused problems for me before. So I want to address it. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Oh, give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
Your support is really appreciated.
Not gonna lie, I thought it would have been a fun conversation with you and Sean, but the pasta dude bringing up Spanish countries are better and doesn't say why. Oh, Sean, I feel like I hate Sean the most. I hate Sean the most because I think I have the highest expectations of him. Like, Sean is a decently smart guy. Sean is a pretty smart guy. I know he is. I can tell by the way he speaks and the way that he considers ideas, and he plays such an unbelievable amount of defense for the people there.
So first of all, Steven, I appreciate the compliment. Obviously, I am the smartest person on planet Earth, 10,000 IQ, and you should have the highest expectations for me, and honestly, no hard feelings about you hating me the most. Again, I take it all as compliments. What I don't appreciate, though, is the examples that you're going to run into, because they're not very good.
Like, when the guy to the right of me said that, oh, all these cases got thrown out on standing, I was like, well, the standing actually had to do with, like, evidentiary shit, and then Sean was like, actually, that's not considered standing. I'm like, yeah, no, you're right, it's not standing, it's like pretrial, like when the complaint is filed. I was like, well, you shouldn't call it standing, because that's not what he's, and I was like, why are you even fighting on this point? Clearly, the actual substance of what this guy said was wrong, that it all got thrown out on standing, when the reality was most of them were thrown out on evidentiary grounds. But it's just like, yeah, it's just cringe that he runs so much defense.
So one of the things that Steven often criticizes other people for doing to him, that he in fact just did to me right there, is talking about them, referencing them, without actually playing the clip in question that backs up their point. And right here, this is him missing.
Okay, firstly, I almost always bring up these clips. These were like minor comments for a guy that I don't feud with a lot. I didn't in this particular case. I don't even know if the footage would have been on my YouTube VOD or whatever. But I always am like playing full clips of things. But is my recollection off for this? I would be surprised. Hold on. Minds event. Can somebody link me he plays the clips? Yeah, but I want the full, because I might,
has been called.
I might go check based on how much he plays. Let's see.
interpreting what I said. Maybe if he rewatched the video, he would understand the point I was trying to make, because when you watch the clip, clearly and obviously, I wasn't trying to obfuscate the cases that were brought forward by Trump that had no merit. I was just pointing out that standing is not about evidence. It's about whether or not you have the ability to sue, whether or not you're a wronged party.
I would like to also say that 50 of the 60 lawsuits were dismissed on not on standing procedural edgers. It wasn't like, a judge a system that puts them in power is going to discredit that same system because that's what got them elected. So, I mean.
So the issue that I have with this guy's point is the meat of his point is that he's trying to say, well, all of those suits that were discussed were basically done without considering any of the merits of the suits. They were all done on standing. That's the meat of the point that he's making, okay?
There's lawsuits that go on all the time. They're always thrown out. They're always kicked back to the state. They don't want to deal with this over here. So yes, by far, when everybody says the lawsuit issue, they don't know what they're talking about, because 50 of these 60 lawsuits were dismissed, not on standing. And like I said, at the end of the day, are you going to discredit a system that's going to put you in power? No, you're not going to do it.
So when we say they were knocked out on standing, so there was a conservative group of lawmakers that actually looked at each and every single one of these cases. When you say knocked out on standing, part of that standing is on evidentiary grounds. That is true. If you
I don't actually know 100% of evidentiary counts as standing or not. It might be a separate thing, because I've heard that standing only considers like whether or not you've got like the ability to bring the case, but I've also heard that standing can also mean like prima facie, like is the case here? Like if you don't have the actual evidence of the complaint, that you lose on standing, or it's like pretrial stuff. Maybe it's not considered standing here, but it's not like the meat of my point. The meat of my point is that they weren't just thrown out on standing; they were thrown out because of a lack of good evidence, and they were thrown out because the relief seeked was insane. That's the meat of my point
conservative
here.
group of lawmakers that actually looked at each and every single one of these cases. When you say knocked out on standing, part of that standing is on evidentiary grounds. That is true. If you submit a complaint in any courthouse and your complaint has almost no merit, and if the relief that you're seeking is unbelievable, like asking for an entire state to be flipped, yeah, it'll likely be tossed. The reality is that there just wasn't really good grounds of evidence on any of the complaints that were filed, except for the one case they won that got I think 100 votes, like switched or tossed out or whatever. Most of the cases, well, basically all of the cases were just garbage.
I mean, that's just factually inaccurate on what standing is. Standing.
And then Sean comes in only to correct me on what standing is. That's the only contribution that he has to this, which is effectively like co-signing. He's going to say, well, I didn't agree with what the other guy said, but it's effectively he's co-signing the guy's opinion by correcting me only on the standing here, which isn't at all relevant to the meat of the disagreement that me and the other dude had. But he does this a lot. I guess I won't make any other accusations as I don't have the precise clips here necessary, but my recollection in prior debates with him is he'll do this a lot where he will try to pick. That was my main frustration when we had the debate at the other event for the debate, the modern day debate thing, is I would bring up a point, and rather than contending with the meat of the point, he'll try to find these itty bitty factual disagreements that don't even deal with the meat of the argument. This is the same complaint I had about him last time. But hey, maybe he wants to go through the full lot of that and look at that. But yeah.
It means you were directly impacted by it, so you can bring a suit. So to say.
What is standing? Let me check, actually. Can we find? I feel like I tried to look this up at one point and I couldn't actually figure it out. What is standing? Legal. I don't know U.S. law, but in general, standing is just testing if you're a party that can be wronged and make this suit. And pre-trial shows you have some kind of case is considered separate. Yeah, I tried to look this up at some point, and I couldn't tell if standing only had to do with if you're an affected party that has like the ability to thing. A state statutes will determine what constitutes standing in that particular state's courts. These typically revolve around the requirement that plaintiffs have sustained or will sustain direct injury or harm, and that this harm is redressable. Oh, fuck. So I think I was right then. I shouldn't have given this. Right? Standing isn't just, are you an affected party? Part of your complaint also has to show that, like, look, this is how I'm affected, and this is how you can, like, give me, like, relief for the injury that I claim I've sustained. So I think I am correct there. I don't know if, where's the Leon Law guy? I think standing is more than just, like, can you bring this suit? Like, part of the question of can you bring this suit, I think, has to do with, like, what type of injury you're claiming and then what type of relief you're seeking. I think if somebody calls you a bad name and then you try to bring a civil suit against them, and part of the relief that you're seeking is that this person is exiled from the country, I think that case can be thrown out on standing because the relief you're seeking is not valuable, or it's not valid. That relief isn't ever going to be granted by a court. I think that case gets thrown out on standing. I think. That's my understanding, at least. At a federal level, legal action is going to be simply on the ground that the individual group is displeased with government action. Federal courts only have constitutional authority to resolve actual disputes. Okay, so on whether... Okay. In Lujan v. Defenders of Wildlife, the Supreme Court created a three-part test to determine whether a party has standing to sue. The plaintiff must have suffered an injury in fact, meaning that the injury is of a legally protected interest, which is A, concrete and particularized, and B, actual or imminent. 2, there must be a causal connection between the injury and the conduct brought before the court. And 3, it must be likely, rather than speculative, that a favorable decision by the court will redress the injury. Oh, okay. No, fuck. So I am 100% correct. These cases that were thrown out because of the bad pretrial evidentiary stuff would have been thrown out on standing. Everything that I said was true. So I am 100% correct here. Fuck. I should have read this. Is this three-pronged test only for federal cases, or are these for all cases of standing? My guess is it's similar for all cases, though, but whatever. I should have forced him to put a stronger affirmative argument here.
They got I think 100 votes switched or tossed out or whatever. Most of the cases, well, basically all of the cases were just garbage.
I mean, that's just factually inaccurate on what standing is. Standing means you were directly impacted by it, so you can bring a suit. So to say that it was dropped on standing based on evidence doesn't make any sense.
It does, because part of the facts of your complaint demonstrate whether or not you are injured, right? You have to particularize the injury that impacts you and then show via your complaint the facts that would have this happen and then ask for good redress. That gives you the standing to bring suit, right?
It's true. You're right. When people say that, it's not actually true. They weren't dropped on standing. They were dropped in.
I shouldn't have even said this. I should have fought harder on this point.
Pre-trial before it actually went to court, and people confuse that with standing. But most of them, over 30 of them, were dropped on evidentiary grounds because they didn't have evidence to even prima facie make the case.
All right, I mean, that's fine to make that case. You could have just said he was wrong, but instead you said standing is actually.
But then here, again, the only part that Sean is fighting me on here is whether or not we have the definition of standing correct. The meat of both of these arguments, we fundamentally, diametrically disagree with each other. But then Sean is but you have the definition of standing wrong. This is the irritating thing I have. Okay, and I do remember this correctly. It's very irritating that this is the one interjection that he had here. Why?
Evidence, which is just factually untrue. A Google search could tell you that.
Now, you might have caught at the end of that, I actually followed it up with you guys should argue about the particular cases, and this is because the pasta guy is way more into the 2020 stuff than I am, and I actually thought that would be a more interesting conversation rather than name the number of cases and then argue about standing being related to evidence when it's not related to evidence. I mean, I do a criminal justice show where I talk about a bunch of different legal issues. I'm not.
And see, and the thing is too is I don't think Sean knows about this because I don't think Sean did any reading into any of these cases. There was a big thing that was published by, we read this. Let me see if we can find this. He also knows exactly what he's doing, the same way he later primes his audience to insult you in his, I don't know about that. It was this, we read this report, which was compiled by, I think there were 9 different judges, all conservatives, that went through all of the cases. And I think here they claim, what was the number, 30? Of the 64 cases brought by Trump and his supporters, 20 were dismissed before a hearing of the merits, 14 were voluntarily dismissed by Trump and his supporters before a hearing on the merits, and 30 cases included a hearing on the merits. Part of that hearing on the merits is to verify the facts of the complaint to see if there is standing for the case, of which they failed on this part. So my statement was completely correct. But I don't even know if he's aware of any of this because he doesn't cover any of this, I think because it looks bad to conservatives. And it seems like he only covers stuff that attacks the left or stuff that attacks right that people don't care that much about. At least that's the feeling I get. But maybe he's got videos that I've missed where he has covered other things. So
related to evidence when it's not related to evidence. I mean, I do a criminal justice show where I talk about a bunch of different legal issues. I'm not a lawyer, but a basic concept like that, I'm going to want to clarify. I'm going to want to explain. So this wasn't done to obfuscate or anything like that. But ultimately, this ends up leading to Stephen referring to me as a grifter when prompted by somebody in his audience. And to be clear, technically he said almost a grifter, but we'll clarify this.
Or when Sean was saying things, is Sean a grifter? I think Sean is pretty close to a grifter. I would say that, yeah, because he's smarter than the scene that he's in, and he knows better, and you can tell by the way that he runs defense that it's very intentional.
The reason I'm very intentional in the way that I speak is in the hopes that I won't be misconstrued. So, for instance, if I were a grifter or whatever, and by the way, this is my job, so technically I do this for money. To be clear about that, I'm one of the people who probably hides that the least, that this is what I do for work. I don't pretend that I sell memberships on my website because I'm conducting a social experiment or I have a Patreon for that purpose or whatever. It's because I want you guys to support what I'm doing if you appreciate what I'm doing. But during the course of this conversation, of this debate, I took a very unpopular position among many people in the Trump camp, and it's the position that I always repeat anytime the issue of 2020 comes up, which is William Barr was absolutely correct when he told Trump that his campaign needed to set aside money in order to challenge these laws before the election. And I criticized Trump and in fact blamed Trump for not doing so.
Because it's not like there was somebody stuffing the ballots or anything.
That might be true, but the hard question, you're not taking an incredibly difficult or unpopular position there. The hard position is, do you think there was voter fraud? Which I don't know if he ever actually addresses that, or if there was election fraud. I don't think he takes a position on that in the debate. Does he? Does anybody know? Does he actually end up doing that?
They changed the rules and the laws and how the elections were conducted in public. So in Pennsylvania, their constitution forbid mail-in voting. They did it anyway. Now, I will say it is the fault of the Trump campaign team for not challenging it early. Anybody could have told him, and in fact, Bill Barr did tell him that he should put together money in order to challenge these laws, because doing it after the election, they're never going to undo it once that bell's already rung.
Because you can complain all you want about mail-in balloting being unconstitutional under Pennsylvania's state constitution, but if you don't actually put the money up in order to challenge it before the election, and then you expect the Supreme Court to toss it out after the fact, that's never going to happen. And the fact is, that's what Trump did. That's one of the reasons why I was very unsympathetic to his 2020 election claims. That's the reason why I told you guys straight up a day or 2 days after the election that there was no way that this was going to be overturned by the Supreme Court because these laws were meant to be challenged prior to that. And the fact that there are declarations that Pennsylvania's mail-in voting system was unconstitutional after the fact obviously aren't going to mean that retroactively Trump is going to become president. So yeah, that was a mistake on Trump's part. This is something that I've not been ambiguous about. I said it on the stage, but apparently I'm just running all this defense for these crazy Republicans, no matter what they say, because I want the money from you.
I gotta say this. So I know what you're talking about. It's the repeal the 19th crowd, and I just want to make this as clear as possible. Anyone who's pushing this, it is a LARP. It is never going to happen. Women vote more than men because they're a larger population than men in the United States of America. This is internet brain on steroids. And if you're like, oh, this is how conservatives win, then nut up and say that the 15th Amendment should be repealed. But none of these pussies want to do that because that would be racist, but it's cool to make fun of women. Like, that's also a LARP. It's not going to happen. Enough is enough.
On top of that, I'm also getting crap for pointing out that all these repeal the 19th dorks are actually being safe edgy because they're attacking women, rather than saying that they should repeal the 15th Amendment because that would involve actually being accused of being a racist, even though all of their arguments apply to black voters way more than they apply to women voters. And black voters are in the key swing states. So if you're going to say we want the R team to win by subtracting from the voter base, that would actually be the most efficient way to do so. Now, I'm against that as well, to be clear about that. I was just pointing out the cowardice in the repeal the 19th argument, and I'm still getting crap for that, even though I did that on the stage. But I guess that's all part of the elaborate grift that I'm running.
I remember there was a time when Sean was saying, it had to do with the voting machines. And Sean was like, well, he's not saying that the voting machines rigged. I'm using an example. It was something like this, but not this. He's like, he's not saying that the votes were all rigged. He's just saying it's possible they were. And I'm like, no, he's saying they were. He's like, well, I didn't hear him say that. I'm not saying this. Well, let's ask him. And he's like, yeah, it was rigged. I'm like, yeah, he just said that. Like, I don't know.
Now, to be fair to Stephen, he did say that he's not saying it's this precise example. He's saying it's something like this. But the thing is, the devil is in the details with this kind of thing. And considering that the issue was about ballot harvesting and about the pasta guy saying that ballot harvesting was legal in a bunch of these different states, and then Stephen responding with, do you have any evidence of this?
So they can print ballots, make ballots, distribute ballots, and with ballot harvesting legal in 27 states, they can stuff the ballot box, and that's exactly what they did.
Why is it that...
So right here earlier on in the conversation, he references the 27 states that have some variety of ballot harvesting legislation on the books that makes it legal. This is what I was referring to later. And by the way, he mentions this twice.
Okay, we do use proprietary software, but to his point, he said it's legal to ballot harvest in 27 states. So you're like, is there any evidence for this? It's in the law. It says you can do this. This is something.
See, I don't know how Sean's going to address this, but Sean is being bad faith here. He must be. When we're talking about ballot harvesting, nobody is talking about, like, is a person allowed to collect ballots from people and drop them in a box? What's being talked about is falsely and maliciously collecting ballots and filling them out as you want and then stuffing the ballot boxes full of votes that people wouldn't have done otherwise. That's the claim that Trump will make. Not, is ballot harvesting legal and should it or should it not be? That's the very soft claim that Sean is addressing. But, like, I don't even think anybody would necessarily disagree with being able to do that. Like, should your dad be able to take a household full of ballots to, like, drop off at a ballot box? Right? Like, probably. That's probably not the worst thing in the world. Does every single individual family member need to go to the ballot box? Like, that's probably not a huge deal. But that's not the claim that's being made. Like, oh yeah, heads of household or people in nursing facilities or whatever, or like in scrubs, they shouldn't be allowed to take ballots in. Every individual should have to go. That's not the strong claim being made. The strong claim being made is they're falsifying the votes. That's the strong claim being made.
That they did in California.
But the ballot harvesting claims are not that you're allowed to go.
I don't hear him saying.
Oh, and I that's true. Okay, good. I bring this up. Thank you.
Oh, it says you can do this. This is something that they did in California.
But the ballot harvesting claims are not that you're allowed to go.
I don't hear him saying, like,
and I don't even get my finish. I don't even get to finish my point.
You can do this. This is something that they did in California.
But the ballot harvesting claims are not that you're allowed to go.
I don't hear him saying, like, Dinesh D'Souza, there's 2,000 mules or whatever. I don't know how.
Yeah, he's saying there are millions of fake ballot stuff. Not that people are going to a nursing home.
He just said it. He said there were. He just said there were fake ballots. He says it in the clip.
Like Dinesh D'Souza, there's 2,000 mules or whatever. I don't know how.
Yeah, he's saying there are millions of fake ballot stuff. Not that people are going to a nursing home.
There was.
He's
referring to policy in terms of mail-in.
No, he's not. He literally, Sean, listen to him. He's right next to me in the own clip. He's not referring to the policies. He's literally referring to millions of fake ballot stuff. He just said it in this clip.
Which again is banned.
But he's also referring that he thinks that last year millions of fake ballots were filled out.
I'll let him speak for himself.
What do you mean? You just said it, Sean. You said it like 5 times.
Fraudulent ballots.
Now, the reason I brought this up was not to run cover or anything like that. It was to clarify the point because we were originally talking...
You're not clarifying the point, though. You're obfuscating. His point here isn't with the policy of ballot harvesting. His point is that he thinks that million of fraudulent ballots were stuffed. That you're not clarifying. You're doing the exact opposite. You're obfuscating.
About 27 states that had legal ballot harvesting, but then when he shifts it to, oh, they're the fraudulent ballots, which I said in the opening where I criticized the Trump...
That's not a shift. That was his initial claim in his initial opening was fraudulent ballots. You're saying it's... I don't know.
As the devil is in the details with this kind of thing, and considering that the issue was about ballot harvesting and about the pasta guy
listen to him at the very beginning of this
in a bunch of these different states, and then Stephen responding with, do you have any evidence of this?
So they can print ballots, make ballots, distribute ballots, and with ballot harvesting legal in 27 states, they can stuff the ballot box, and that's exactly what they did.
Why is it that...
So right here earlier on in the conversation, he
when he's not talking about when they can print ballots, fill out ballots, blah, blah. He's not talking about a family member taking in ballots. He's talking about illegally filling out ballots and stuffing them in the box. That's obviously what he's talking about. And then he affirms that when I say later, well, what is he saying? And then he says, yeah, that is what I'm saying. Like, but it's obvious whoever's listening to this, what he's making the claim about. Like, that's what he's been saying the entire debate.
7 states that have some variety of ballot harvesting legislation on the books that makes it legal. This is what I was referring to later, and by the way, he mentions this twice.
Okay, we do use proprietary software, but to his point, he said it's legal to ballot harvest in 27 states. So you're like, is there any evidence for this? It's in the law. It says you can do this. This is something that they did in California.
But the ballot harvesting claims are not that you're allowed to go.
I don't hear him saying like Dinesh D'Souza, there's 2,000 mules or whatever. I don't know how.
Oh, yeah, he's saying there are millions of fake ballot stuff. Not that people are going to a nursing home
There
and
was.
collecting people's ballots.
He's referring to policy in terms of mail-in voting, which again is banned.
But he's also referring that he thinks that last year millions of fake ballots were filled out.
I'll let him speak for himself. Fraudulent ballots.
Now, the reason I brought this up was not to run cover or anything like that. It was to clarify the point, because we were originally talking about 27 states that had legal ballot harvesting, but then when he shifts it to, oh, they're the fraudulent ballots, which I said in the opening where I criticized the Trump campaign for not fighting this out.
Sean just misunderstood. No, she runs so much defense for these guys. Even in the 2 examples he's given enough evidence just to look on stage where it's like, it's pretty obvious.
Before, on the advice of William Barr, that is where he changes it up and I dropped the subject. I was just trying to clarify in this situation, yet I'm being read with the worst intent possible. Then my clarification on this point I would have thought would have been useful, so we could actually talk about the thing that we're actually supposed to be talking about. But apparently I don't get the courtesy of you actually running the clip of what I actually said, because that might actually change the context of it. And again, I understand that this is probably just laziness right here in this moment. Also, in this exchange, I call nonsense on the idea that it somehow doesn't make sense that Joe Biden would have gotten more votes than Barack Obama when the American population is significantly larger than when Barack Obama ran both times.
I spend enough time on these panels, maybe.
But I know this is kind of like a baseless point, but the fact that Donald Trump filled stadiums and Joe Biden couldn't fill my living room was really kind of odd, don't you think? Like, nobody showed up for this guy, but all of a sudden we expect to believe that this guy got more votes than Barack Obama, who had more votes than any election ever there, by like 9 million votes.
I mean, is it really that surprising? You could probably get more children to show up at the circus than you could for a civics class, so that doesn't really surprise me at all.
That's one of my least favorite points, I gotta be honest. We have way more population in 2020 than we did when Obama was running, so it actually makes sense.
But the fact of the matter is, I end up in situations where people send me clips.
Is that point true? He says we have way more population now than when Obama was running. Didn't we have a higher percentage of people voting as well? Was it really just that we have an absolute... Hold on. I want to check. I don't even know if that point is right that he brings up there. Percentage of population. Like, we do have more population, but I thought a higher percentage voted. Percentage of population voting in recent U.S. presidential elections. Because he just said he was trying to dismiss Biden's win by record numbers by saying, like, oh, we got more people. I don't know if that's actually true, if it was a lower percentage or same percentage of people that voted. Percentage of U.S. in recent U.S. Okay, in percentage U.S. population vote president over time. Voter turnout in U.S. presidential elections. Let's check. In 2008, it was 2004. I'm assuming this is 2008 over here. So no, it wasn't just because we've got a greater population. It's because we have a higher percentage of people voting as well. So even him trying to hand wave Biden's win there was disingenuous, right? I'm glad he posted the video. We can go over more like grifty lies. And he should know this, because if he knows the numbers, if he's looked up the numbers before, he knows the percentage as well. So this is an intentional lie that's being told to dismiss Biden's win as being the most votes that anybody's ever received. He's saying like, oh, well, just because we have more population voting. That's disingenuous.
More votes than Barack Obama, who had more votes than any election ever there, by like 9 million votes.
I mean, is it really that surprising? You could probably get more children to show up at the circus than you could for a civics class, so that doesn't really surprise me at all.
That's one of my least favorite points, I gotta be honest. We have way more population in 2020 than we did when Obama was running, so it actually makes sense.
But the fact of the matter is...
See, that's a bullshit point. Yeah.
Up in situations where people send me clips, and sometimes they're from Steven, who, by the way, doesn't talk about me that often, so it's not that big of a deal, where this kind of thing consistently happens. So, for instance, there was a clip from my appearance on the Culture War. It went viral on Twitter. It starts off like this from the Twitter clip.
She initiated the divorce and legal documents. She initiated the divorce and legal documents.
I think she's entitled to nothing during this.
Just as a quick thing, whoever... Okay. Oh, they trigger me.
Now, this sets off about a minute-long rant from Steven about how it's really dumb for people to focus on who initiates the divorce in legal documents, because that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the person who is responsible for the divorce, caused the divorce, etc. And I'll play a little bit of that for you right here.
There's like several layers to how dumb this comment was, okay?
She initiated the divorce and legal documents.
Anybody can initiate a divorce, regardless. Even if one side wants to begin divorce proceedings, the other side could initiate it. Initiating is just, when you're filling out the paperwork, it's who the petitioner is and who the respondent is. It doesn't matter. A divorce is always going to have the same 2 parties involved, husband and wife. It doesn't matter who the petitioner is. It doesn't matter who initiates it. It doesn't matter, okay? Number one. Number two, just because somebody wants to do the divorce doesn't even necessarily mean it's their fault. I like how people will go to like, oh, well, whoever initiated the divorce is the one who wants the divorce or the one who caused the divorce. Like, that's a really reductive way to look at things. Oh, because the talking point for women is that since women initiate divorce, it's because they're trying to like benefit off of it versus the men or whatever. It's a red pill talking point, right? Let's say that I have a wife and I start shitting myself all day because I'm bored, and I start throwing it all over the apartment because why the f- not? And then my wife divorces me, right? Is that her initiating divorce because she just wants to leave the marriage and she's abandoning her husband and abandoning the sanctity of marriage? Or is it my fault for throwing shit over? Like, it's such a weirdly reductive way to view relationships. I don't understand this. Like, oh, that shit. Like, relationships take two people.
And the reason I find this to be particularly annoying is because that was the exact point that I made. I mean, even in the beginning, when you hear me say, yes, she initiated the divorce in legal documents with that caveat, would lead you to believe that maybe if you brought the clip back,
Wait. She initiated. Well, technically, wait. I initiated the divorce. I think you just misspoke here because I don't think you got that wrong in the initial.
yes, she initiated the divorce in legal documents with that caveat, would lead you to believe that maybe if you brought the clip back, maybe 30 seconds or something like that, then it would completely change the context.
She initiated the divorce in legal documents. She initiated the divorce in legal documents.
I think she's entitled to nothing.
Oh, he does say she initiated. Oh, I don't know. I don't even know what. Also, fuck. I might not have had the full clip here. I'm just going by I get an 8-minute clip that's posted on fucking Twitter. I guess I could have tried to find. Oh, he's talking about Crowder here. Oh, okay. My bad. I thought this was related to me. Never mind.
I believe she initiated the divorce.
She filed, but like remember, she filed after Crowder had already hired a lawyer and moved out of the house and cut her off financially.
Oh, that's true. That changes that a lot. Well, he should blame whoever cut him on Twitter. I didn't see the original Tim Pool thing. I don't even know if the main clip was responding about what AJW said or was about like the Tim Pool stuff, but.
So like technically she initiated the divorce in legal documents.
But that is true. He's repeating what I say later here.
I think she's entitled to nothing.
Now, again, I also made a follow-up video to that appearance where I explained in great detail that 80% of divorces are initiated by women stat is completely fake, debunked a whole bunch of other red pill divorce-related stats because I don't hold the positions that are currently being ascribed to me in this moment in time by Steven, and I didn't expect him to watch that follow-up video, but you could have...
Wait, did I ascribe these positions to Sean? I don't remember if I ascribed these positions or if I just complain in general when people do this. Although maybe you could take my complaints as applying them to Sean. Maybe, I guess if you're...
just sought out the clip and brought it back 30 seconds rather than...
I swear you were talking about Tim. Yeah, I think I was more mad at Tim, but I don't remember.
Go on a rant and portray me as somebody who's in the red pill camp in terms of the person who files for divorce, definitely 100% the guilty party in that particular scenario, as if nothing else preceded that. And the thing is, normally I let this go. I mean, people say nonsense about me all the time. I mean, I get called a racist every day on the internet. It's almost like people are greeting me with that word at this point in time. But the fact of the matter is, this does end up having consequences because some people don't actually watch my videos. They don't actually get my context. They end up going based on what other people say. And this has actually cost me appearances before. I'll give you an example of something that this almost cost me. So when I was going to be on Culture War with Emma Vigeland, I actually got a call from Tim Pool's booker, who's a friend of mine, Lisa, great person, by the way. And she called to say that Emma was really upset that they were trying to book her opposed to somebody who talks about the transes nonstop, who makes their whole channel about transgender issues. Now, I almost never cover that issue. And the reason why is because outside of sports and children, and even not that much in terms of those categories, I don't find it all that interesting. I don't care what adults do, what procedures they get, or anything like that. And it's not really one of my issues. But that almost cost me that appearance based on somebody who is not Steven, by the way, who definitely was acting maliciously, spreading all this nonsense behind my back on the left-wing side and feeding that information to Emma. I'll let you guys guess who I might have debated in the past that was probably behind that. But
Who is he talking about? Vosh, or weren't you specifically shitting on Tim on Twitter too regarding divorce takes? Why is he not showing you doing it? I don't know. I don't think I did, but I might have. I don't know. I just don't remember.
a lot of the time in these particular situations...
Where's the clip where Destiny said AJW is a red pillar? Yeah, I don't think I did that, but I might have. I just don't remember. I feel like I was more focused on Tim, but who knows?
It doesn't go that way. A lot of times I get a call up about positions that I've never taken, about issues that I've never or almost never talked about, and then the other person ends up canceling the stream or the appearance or the whatever, and it's all because people end up taking information out of the context, out of what I actually said, what I actually intended, or going based on rumors, and it's situations like this that allow it to spread.
I feel like I generally don't do this to Sean, and I feel like when he played these two clips, I think my position is exactly correct. I don't think that I think that everything I was saying was 100% correct, even with the context that he provided, but except for maybe not on the Tim Pool one, although he doesn't have the clip of me actually calling him a red pillar. But I probably would have changed my commentary a little bit on that if we went back 15 seconds earlier, but I don't think I actually made strong claims about him. But
on top of that, the reason why this annoys me even more is that I actually paid to go to this event, which is something that I never do. Typically, when you go to these events and you're a speaker, your flight and your hotel is covered. But for whatever reason, the flights to Austin were ungodly expensive. For me and the fiance, I spent about $1,800. And just to clarify, before anybody makes this suggestion, this is a standard ticket. I was sitting...
Jesus Christ. Wait, what? I don't think you were talking about Sean. Wait, well, hold on. He wouldn't clip chip me in a video where he accuses me of clip chipping him, right? Can you, does anybody have a link to me talking about this? Oh, AJW is talking about Sam Cedar.
Say I spent about $1,800. And just to clarify, before anybody makes this suggestion, this is a standard ticket. I was sitting in what is called Main 2 under Delta, which is economy class. So yeah, it was $1,800 for 2 economy class tickets. Now I happen to know the booker of this particular event, and he usually will reimburse the speakers for their flights. That's a typical standard part of the deal. However, when I told him about the price, he said, look, I'm going to come out of pocket, but it hurts me because I'm losing a bunch of money. And honestly, I don't know if I can cover the full thing of the flight. So because it was my friend, I actually ended up paying for this because...
Wait, where is he flying from? Doesn't he live in like New York or something? Maybe he booked for the next day, $900 for a plane ticket. That's wild. But he might be, if he's next to a really small airport, then maybe. Does he say where he lives? Rhode Island? Oh, I don't. He lives in Rhode Island. Is that true? Do they even have airports over there? Did they pay for your stay-in ticket? I think they did, but I don't remember. But I feel like my ticket was like $400-$500, maybe.
I had already been.
But I'm also flying from a much larger airport too, I think. Well, not if he's flying out of JFK or LaGuardia. If he's in New York, those are big airports, or Newark. But I'm flying out of Miami, which is a decently sized airport. But
in the event to you guys out there in the audience, and if any of you bought tickets to come out to see me, I wasn't going to let an issue like paying for a plane ticket separate you guys from
it's a Rhode Island. No, shut the fuck up.
Getting what you actually paid for. So while there were definitely notable people who were announced as speakers at different various points in time for this event who backed out for whatever reason, some of them were family emergencies, so no shade toward those people. I didn't want to be one of those people. So I came out of pocket and actually paid to go. And by the way, one of the reasons why I did that on top of that is because Jimmy Dore was going to be there. And I wanted to ask, everybody knows the questions that I wanted to ask Jimmy Dore given the opportunity. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, I did in fact get to meet Jimmy Dore and his wife in the green room. However, I didn't get to ask him the questions that I wanted to ask him because Jimmy was also here for the event. And my plan was to actually, not ambush some guy and start an argument in front of his wife.
Not gonna lie, easy AJW on the video. Destiny repeating what he said in the clip just louder doesn't make what he said any more true. What part, hold on, Moon in YouTube chat, what part do you think I'm incorrect about? I feel like this is like a pretty easy, pretty clear logic. This isn't even like a complicated dispute. I feel like I'm 100% correct on every single thing I just said here. What am I incorrect about?
Because that's not a decent thing to do, and instead try to talk to him after he finished his set, because he is somebody who came here to do the event as well. The event is not all about me, so I waited for that opportunity and didn't even get a chance to approach him later on. So essentially, I dropped $1,800 in order to ask Jimmy Dore a couple of questions, and I didn't get to do so, and now I have Steven referring to me as a grifter for things that I've never said. Now look, of course, I had a
well, I said he's close to a grifter, to be fair.
fine time. I was able to hang out with my friends, meet some of you, but it's really obnoxious to have this come from Steven, who I don't think I've ever gone out of my way to be disrespectful to. In fact, when a lot of people were using his own personal situation in order to clickbait videos, I didn't want to do that to him, so I just didn't cover it because that
is true. I don't think AJW is a bad guy. I don't think he's ever done anything fucked up towards me. That's true. But also, I don't think I've done anything fucked up towards him. I feel like I accurately summarized everything that happened, and I think that even the clips he plays justified everything I said.
His personal business, and on top of that, I ended up running into an organizer.
The voting you were wrong on, AJW was on your side? No, hold on. The voting I was not wrong on. My issue with the voting was the guy to the right of me was implying that millions of fake ballots were stuffed in boxes. Sean wanted to just say that we're talking about just the laws of ballot harvesting, but that's not what the guy to the right of me was complaining about. He was complaining about illegal ballots being stuffed in boxes. That we weren't talking about just the concept or the legal definition of ballot harvesting. That was not at all what the conversation topic was. That was a thing that tangentially came up, but that was just the last chain of the guy to the right of me accusing millions of ballots being stuffed. That's why I literally asked him, is that what you're saying? And he said, yeah, that is what I'm saying.
After he was confronted by Alex Stein, where I explained the situation between Steven and Alex Stein, because while I don't have an issue with Alex Stein at all whatsoever personally, I've seen him confront Steven and say the same things to him, I think at like 3 separate events, and he's kind of made it clear that he doesn't want to share a stage with Alex, so the organizers should probably honor that if they expect him to keep coming to the events. Now, somewhere in all of that mess, maybe you can only see it if you're wearing Steven's special contacts, I was grifting and taking all these crazy right-wing positions and defending all these crazy people for that sweet, sweet grifter cash, and if you...
I'm not saying he takes these crazy right-wing, I'm just saying that he very selectively inserts himself into conversations to carry water for people on the right, on the far right, that he knows are in the wrong here. And I think the 2 clips that he played, I think demonstrate that 100%. I still stand by that 1,000,000%.
can clarify those points for me, Steven, and tell the person to send me a check to my P.O. box. It will be linked in the description. I'd really appreciate that, because if I did all that grifting for all that grifting cash, I would at least like to be paid. Now, look, even though I'm annoyed by this, the fact of the matter is being called a grifter is part of the game. This is something that is going to happen to you if you make content on the internet.com. One of the more annoying moments of that happening was actually during the course of this month, where we were raising money under Anna Kasparian's name for a 9-year-old girl who was murdered, and somehow me donating 3 times what that video was expected to make is part of the grift. It's the grift, the raising money for them, which, by the way, I'm going to link that fundraiser. You guys did an excellent job in supporting that, and I really appreciate it. Said it before and I'll say it again. You guys honor me when you follow up with stories like that and help the victims based on my coverage, so I really do appreciate that. It's one of the best ways to show your appreciation for this channel is to actually take positive action in this world. But point being, no matter what you do, you're going to be labeled this. But I expect a little better from Steven, not that he's my friend or he owes me anything, because he uses the very same tactics that he criticizes other people for using it against him.
Or he just cares about being technically... Oh, message retracted. Why can you retract messages? What the fuck?
I actually have never done this to him at all whatsoever, so I don't appreciate appreciate it. On top of that, I don't appreciate the downstream consequences that this kind of crap has for me and why I don't do as many appearances as I would want to do. Because, yeah, I would love to have debates, conversations.
Okay, I don't think he's ever gotten kicked out of an event because he's a grifter or because people, I feel like everybody accuses everybody of being almost a grifter. I don't think that anything I've said about him, I've never said anything bad about Sean in terms of like, I don't think Sean does like crazy weird culture war shit or crazy weird like gross talking points. I've never seen him do that. I just feel like he very selectively applies skeptical criticisms to certain sides of a political conflict to carry water for the right, which I still feel, especially after watching him run through these, but
or whatever, but I don't like having to have those things canceled at the last minute or people back out, because I totally defended a crazy position or I hold a position that I don't actually hold. Now, like I said at the top, and I will repeat again, I don't read bad intent in this particular situation. I just think this is a combination of laziness and bad assumptions. But, correct me if I'm wrong if you guys find any bad intent or anything down in the comments below. As usual, if you like this video, you can show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about some of the nonsense post mines. Till next time.
okay. This is when you were talking about the Tim Pool thing.
During the
Just as a quick thing, whoever, okay,
is married, assuming the divorce is not a sacrament.
cringe.
She initiated the divorce and legal documents. She initiated the divorce and legal documents.
I think she's entitled to nothing during the
Just as a quick thing, whoever, okay, oh fuck, these trigger me, fuck. Okay. There's like several layers to how dumb this comment was, okay?
She initiated the divorce and legal documents.
Anybody can initiate a divorce, regardless. Even if one side wants to begin divorce proceedings, the other side could initiate it. Initiating is just when you're filling out the paperwork, it's who the petitioner is and who the respondent is. He does say this 15 seconds earlier, so I'm just writing off this Twitter clip, but we'll see. It doesn't matter. A divorce is always going to have the same two parties involved, husband and wife. It doesn't matter who the petitioner is. It doesn't matter who initiates it. It doesn't matter. Okay. Number one. Number two. Just because somebody wants to do the divorce doesn't even necessarily mean it's their fault. I like how people will go to like, oh well, whoever initiated the divorce is the one who wants the divorce or the one who caused the divorce. Like that's a really reductive way to look at things, right? Let's say that I have a wife and I start shitting myself all day because I'm bored and I start throwing it all over the apartment because why the fuck not? And then my wife divorces me, right? Is that her initiating divorce because she just wants to leave the marriage and she's abandoning her husband and abandoning the sanctity of marriage? Or is it my fault for throwing shit over? Like it's such a weirdly reductive way to view relationships. I don't understand this. Like, oh, initiate, but like relationships take two people. She says dumb things conflict, but then immediately backtracks on press. Yeah, because how much dumb shit she can get by this. Like this is such a dumb.
I think she's entitled to nothing during these proceedings, and I think the problem is no fault divorce. And I think we're not dealing with a traditional at fault divorce. We're dealing with irreconcilable differences. And I think the real answer should have been that when problems arose, a judge told them both, STFU, you are in a marriage. It is a sacred covenant.
Bro, you're giving me financial benefits, and there are financial things relating to this. No, fuck you. A judge isn't going to tell me to stay in a relationship. Now, what the fuck? Why the fuck would you ever want the? Do I say anything else in this video about Sean, or is it all criticizing Tim? I'm curious because he made it sound like I called him like a red pillar or like said, do I say anything else about him or is that all about Tim at this point? The state involved in forcing you to date somebody or be together with somebody you don't want to be with. Like, how is this a good idea? Like,
you are in a marriage. It is a sacred covenant. You will not do X, Y, and Z. The problem I have with this is marriage has become dating. It's dating with like strings attached in the financial world after the fact. No. Don't get married if you don't get married, okay? If you don't want to get in a position where you have to file for a divorce and hire lawyers for these reasons, then don't get married at all. And so the issue is not so much like in this argument I'm making, it's not to do with Hillary or Stevens.
Must be my makes the sense. True. Just don't start a relationship forever if you don't last forever. I mean, how the fuck you know that going into it? I doubt either of the Crowders thought they were going to get divorced.
Specifically, it's about the fact that we live in this world where people get married and then go, you know what? It was a mistake. Let's sever ties. You pay me. Like, okay, hold on. This whole thing's broken.
Hold on. Do you think that's what Hillary thought? Do they already have two kids and then she had twins on the way? Do you think she was like, nah, I can really go on Tinder and fuck Chad's dick? Why would I stay with Steve? Like, you really think it was easy for her to walk away from that relationship?
The whole thing is broken. The other point, so like Lauren Southern responded to me saying, or she responded in general to many people. So what? Hillary gives up her job for Stephen, but now that they're getting divorced, she has no money. And I'm like, even if she kept her job, she would never have anywhere near as much money as Stephen Crowder has. Like, so I don't appreciate this argument
that doesn't matter. Wait, what?
Anywhere near as much money as Stephen Crowder has. She kept her job. She would never have anywhere near as much money as Stephen Crowder has.
Yeah, but Stephen Crowder wouldn't have been able to build his business if he didn't have somebody willing to watch the children and take care of the house at home.
Like, so I don't appreciate this argument that Crowder, as a wealthy man, pays her $25K a month. If Stephen Crowder was worth
that $25K a month is a fantastic, like it's fake. That figure's fake. This just came out of nowhere. She got $25,000 basically sent to her from Crowder's business to pay for like divorce stuff, which is it's their money, of course. That's how divorce works. But this idea that she's getting like $25,000 a month or some bullshit, that's just not true. That he completely invented this fact and he just runs with it. I don't know why.
Nothing had no job. We would be having this argument, so it's not an issue of whether she's entitled to as a woman and give up her job. It's an issue of Stephen has money, therefore they think he should pay.
No. It's because they're married, and once you're married, whatever either of you are working on, you're both working on it because it's your team. You're now like financially, legally, whatever, like union. Like that's how it works. You're both acquiring whatever it is you're acquiring. Nobody's working alone here. You're only working because your significant other enables you to do so.
So there's an interesting phenomenon here that for some reason has emerged in this particular case, where you're seeing a lot of these traditional conservatives actually come out as full-on feminists as soon as it comes to the issue of divorce.
I don't think it's feminist at all. If you want to incentivize traditional marriage, like you can't like put one party in a position where they get totally like ripped off in case of a divorce.
You're correct.
Like,
the response is.
Okay. This is true. And Tim is about to give the smart response, which I'll agree with. You shouldn't be able to just leave the relationship and get fucked over if you're the guy and lose all the money. And the solution is husband and wife should just have separate bank accounts, and then the husband just pays the wife for upkeep and all the other work that she would otherwise be doing for free. Super easy. So okay, so I agree with AJ here, and I'm giving a sarcastic response because I know Tim's not going to say this. You're a guy, you run a business, and if you want your wife to divorce you, but not taking your assets, then you just pay her for fair work, for cooking meals, watching kids 24/7, being an incubator for babies, cleaning the house. You're going to pay that wage, whatever you think that would be fair. You guys can negotiate what you think that wage should be. Then fine, sure.
The feminist response is to say that all these women need to like store away money in case of a divorce,
no, it isn't.
Like in order to pay for it. Like
the traditional response to how you fix marriage is divorce is not allowed.
Okay.
Like what is this statement? It's like unhinged.
But
There's rare circumstances where like a guy is threatening to murder and beating his wife and his kids. And infidelity is one of these things. These are people who I don't think those accusations are on the table. They're mostly just angry with each other and yelling at each other and not getting along. That's where a judge comes in and says, you are adults. You will behave appropriately. You have children. Those children need functioning parents. You will treat this relationship.
The parents are fighting all the time like this are functioning. Oh, this is so cringe.
Properly, get therapy, and at the very least, if you don't like being around each other, you will be professional. And you chose this covenant. We now decide this is why it is absolutely a feminist position to say we should allow for divorce over your
What are you advocating for them to like live in the same house and they don't like each other? Like, yes, that's crazy.
I think that and don't get married. Don't get married. This is what I'm saying. You don't have to get married. Nobody made them do it. They said, let's get married. And you're later like, I'm having fun, I quit.
So you're like theory of
That's I like that's it. Like, oh yeah, LOL, I'm having fun, I quit. Like I just want to walk away because LOL, right? It's like such a retarded fucking. It's like a childlike view of relationships and divorce.
Let's get married. And you're later like, I'm having fun, I quit.
So you're like theory of like how this should work. Like, so you should be able to theoretically using an example very like not related to this at all. Like, you know, let's say your media personality, and you go out buy a townhouse and then cut your wife off financially. Like, you should be able to do that. There should be no court redress. That's in the case. No, as long as you get divorced though.
No, the judge will say, stop. You are married. STFU. You will both be in this house. You will raise your kids. You will stop fighting you with therapy. If you don't want to get married, don't.
Wasn't this guy supposed to be the libertarian guy?
Get married.
You just said that you don't trust judges in the way that they handle people with money versus the money. Now you're like, judges have to assess whether or not you should live in the same house.
Yes, that's completely irrelevant point of view. Okay, so let's talk about if you don't want to get married, you don't get married. Instead, the progressive, feminist, and liberal response has been, let's weaken the institution of marriage. And I'm like, oh, leave marriage as is. People just don't have to get married. Like, people don't understand. And part of me, I'm glad we're seeing all this because when you see the shocking reality of divorce.
I don't understand why. Wait, hold on. What did Sean claim that I said about him in this video? Wait.
Welcome of that for you.
Wife. It doesn't matter who the petitioner is. It doesn't matter who initiates it. Doesn't matter. Okay. Number one. Number two. Just because somebody wants to do the divorce doesn't even necessarily mean it's their fault. I like how people will go to like, oh, well, whoever initiated the divorce is the one who wants the divorce or the one who caused the divorce. Like, that's a really reductive way to look at things, right? Let's say that I have a wife and I start myself all day because I'm bored and I start throwing it all over the apartment because why not? And then my wife divorces me, right? Is that her initiating divorce because she just wants to leave the marriage and she's abandoning her husband, abandoning the sanctity of marriage? Or is it my fault for throwing shit over? Like, it's such a weirdly reductive way to view
In the beginning when you
understand this, like, oh, like, relationships take two people.
And the reason I find this to be particularly annoying is because that was the exact point that I made. I mean, even in the beginning, when you hear me say, yes, she initiated the divorce in legal documents with that caveat, would lead you to believe that maybe if you brought the clip back, maybe 30 seconds or something like that, then it would completely change the context.
She initiated the divorce in legal documents. She initiated the divorce in legal documents.
I think she's entitled to nothing. I believe she initiated the divorce.
She filed, but like remember, she's
entitled to nothing.
Now again, I also made a follow-up video to that appearance where I explained in great detail that 80% of divorces are initiated by women stat is completely fake, debunked a whole bunch of other red pill divorce-related stats because I don't hold the positions that are currently being ascribed to me in this moment in time by Steven, and I didn't expect him to watch that follow-up video.
Wait, being ascribed to you at the time? I don't think I ascribed anything. I think I generally agreed with everything AJW said in that video. I don't think I call him out unless it's even further down here, but like 4 minutes into this, all of my criticisms are at Tim. I agree with basically everything AJ is saying against Tim. That's why I'm only arguing against him when he's talking. I even said that when AJ finished an argument, I was like, that's true. But now I'm sure Tim's going to say this.
But you could have just sought out the clip and brought it back 30 seconds rather than go on a rant and portray me as somebody.
When you say go on a rant, the rant that I'm going, unless he's considering me just saying that the filing for divorce, which I guess not technically, he did clarify that 15 seconds earlier. It's not of the clip, but that's not even like the main thrust of what I'm talking about.
Who's in the red pill camp in terms of the person who files for divorce, definitely 100% the guilty party in that particular scenario, as if nothing else preceded that. And the thing is, normally I let this go. I mean, people say nonsense about me all the time. I mean, I get called a racist every day on the internet. It's almost like people are greeting me with that word at this point in time. But the fact of the matter is, this does end up having consequences because some people don't actually watch my videos. They don't actually get my context. They end up going based on what other people say. And this has actually cost me appearances before. I'll give you an example of something that this almost cost me.
Okay, whatever. Okay. I love you guys. I think Albert's going to be here soon, and then I've got to get ready to drive over for my debate tonight. I will be on the Fresh and Fit stream.